like even if you are a Big Ten fan, like Iowa versus Wisconsin, like you don't want to watch that at 3:30 in the afternoon if that's the marquee game, because there's a good chance that game's going to be 14-10 or 10-7 or 17-10.
All right.
Not Luke Fickell's Wisconsin.
The Big Ten is in an interesting spot right now. Seems like their new deal that's about to take place with the NBC community with Peacock and live on NBC, and I think USA, I think there's other things that could potentially fall into the NBC platform, the Peacock world. I guess this has ruffled some real feathers with the X-Fox deal, and now there's $40 million that every school has to pay back. Is that real? And how do they get through this? And how do some of these schools survive? That feels like a lot of money from some places.
So it's $40 million for total. So I would say this right now as they're ironing these deals out. So these 3 TV deals, Pat, start in September, and they're not done yet, which again, I'm not a TV expert or consultant, but usually, when you have multi-billion-dollar television deals, they're completed before the season starts. And there is when the new commissioner, Tony Petitti, started about a month ago, there was just a lot of legwork that needed to be taken care of. And these ADs all of a sudden started getting bills. Hey, you've got to pay back. Now it's $40 million total amongst the 15 schools, which will be 16. But then there's also another $25 million for COVID games that never got played. And then the NBC deal now is shrinking because certain teams don't want to play in prime time. So they're finishing the negotiations on that.
Don't want to play in prime time? What do you mean by that?
So there are what are called tolerances, and I got an education in this. I kind of knew about it, and let's put it this way: Ohio State, Michigan. When do they play it? Noon. Every year, right? Set your clock to it, right? That last weekend. So that game is not played in prime time, in part because of these historic tolerances, because of weather, because of recovery, because of different reasons. They just say we want to play at noon. So when they sold NBC this giant primetime package, which again would not normally have Ohio State, Michigan, I want to be clear about that, but they said, hey, you're going to be our primetime partner. Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State were like, wait a minute, we have these historic tolerances where we don't play at night. Now, some of it is like if you're the AD at Penn State and it's November 17th and there's a blizzard. Anybody ever been to Penn State? It's cow paths and one-lane highways, and it's...
Oh, no. I didn't know.
One more.
I didn't know what all you were going to say was there at Penn State. I didn't know how far Pulitzer.
Well, there's not much there. It's a rural community with a giant football stadium where people come from hours away.
Happy birthday, AQ Shipley. Happy birthday, AQ Shipley. Thank you. Happy birthday, AQ Shipley, Penn State royalty.
Yes. And it's a wonderful place, but it's hard to get to. So they basically were like, we don't want to play at night because we don't want the couple driving home to Altoona at 2 in the morning in a blizzard, which makes sense. So the Big Ten the Big Ten sold this deal to NBC, but didn't have its I's dotted and its T's crossed to have all these schools play at night. So now they're a little bit at loggerheads, and there's concessions being made, and they're basically scrambling to get the television deal done, and that's what's happening right now. And it's a matter of how much less the deal is going to be worth, Pat, because they may not have access to those marquee programs at those times.
Can you see how cool you look in the top left, right behind the date there? I don't know. You look so cool there. You look super sporty. We're talking business right now with the authority, Pete Thamel, for college football. So what is the potential outcome here? Because you said it, this all starts in September, right? And, as somebody who has not been in billion-dollar negotiations with a network, that for a deal that starts in September. Certainly large ones, though. There is a certain time you'd like to have this done by, because then there's a bunch of shit you got to figure out even after the deal gets done. So do they have the deal done? They just don't have the contract done? And is there anything that could potentially change how the future of the Big Ten and Peacock look?
So the deal was agreed to in August, but the details aren't done. And that's what they're sort of hurrying through right now, is how to get all these details ironed out, Pat. And there's just a bit of uncertainty that hovers over the league. Ultimately, it's going to cost the school some money, right? Now, one could argue if it's a $7 billion contract, maybe, schools losing $4 or $5 million each isn't that much money. But if you're the dude at Indiana trying to balance the budget, $5 million is a lot of money, right? I don't care who you are. You got a cross-country team that needs uniforms. You got to travel to different places. So there's a disconnect that the new commissioner, Tony Petitti, is trying to sort of put everything together on. in a pretty short period of time.
Paisan Petiti will get it figured out, and obviously deadlines create action. I assume they'll get it all figured out, but that was certainly something to read that from you. And I'm not an avid long form reader, but I'll tell you what, whenever you screenshot things and put them in a tweet size, you got me.
Perfect.
You got me. I am 100% in there. And as soon as I started reading, I'm like, this is a pretty big fucking deal. Because to your point about Indiana and some of these other schools, Rutgers, you think Rutgers just wants to hand over $4 million out of nowhere? Not saying Rutgers can't find that, but still, it's not as easy as a school like Michigan that can build a $500 million new whatever, Ohio State that can round up $15 million at one event at A.J. Hawk's house. It's a little bit different in some places, and I can't believe they're still kind of battling it out, which leads this to Ty's question from Iowa. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks is right. Pete, did Kevin Warren kind of screw over the Big Ten then on his way out? Was he privy to all this stuff going on and kind of just dragged his feet a little bit? Because, like you mentioned, if all that stuff is supposed to go in effect in September and they're still working out the kinks, that kind of puts everyone in precarious spots. So did he screw them over intentionally?
I think I would say that there were a lot of loose ends that weren't tied up. And when the deal was announced about a year ago, I'm sure you guys remember, there was a lot of thunder, right? Historic this, and there was a lot of excitement in the league that we're going to be, the biggest and the best. And when Kevin Warren, I want to say, he was up for the job late December, took the Bears job in January, actually left for it in April, and these issues were all lingering, and a lot of them emerged sort of in that time when he had already committed to go to the Bears. So there's been sprinting rambling.
Yeah, everything's good. yeah, dude, that's good. So when are you guys need me up there? Go Bears, bear down, hell yeah. I can do whatever you. Look what I just did. That's a wild thing. Can't blame him.
No.
He's in the middle of a job transition as well, but this is a massive deal. How much money was it? Do we remember? Was that publicly stated? And did NBC bid the most? Is that how they won the Big Ten rights here?
So NBC did not bid the most, and this is really deep in the weeds, but essentially Fox/the Big Ten Network actually owned all the rights through this decade. And the NBC deal and the CBS deal were sub-licenses off that deal. So Fox in 2016/the Big Ten Network bought everything for a decade plus, and so for the remainder of this deal through the rest of the decade, Fox had actually owned it all, and then they had to sub-license it out. But Kevin Warren, as Big Ten commissioner, was sort of the front of those negotiations to do so. So it's sort of this complex web where the Big Ten didn't actually own the rights to the Big Ten content for the Big Ten TV deal.
But the Big Ten was trying to get more deals?
Yeah, so the Big Ten was the front of a negotiation to say, okay, we own all this content. We're going to slice off a third of it, just to use a round number, and give some and sell it off to NBC for profit. And we're going to slice off more of it, and we're going to give that to CBS for profit.
And Fox was Fox had to agree to that, I assume?
Correct, yeah. So they were partners in the negotiation in a lot of ways. So, for example, the $40 million that you mentioned, and this was a big point of contention, Pat, was that Kevin Warren said to NBC, hey, if you become our primetime partner, we'll give you the 2026 Big Ten title game. But he never asked Fox for permission to do that. And because he didn't ask Fox for permission, the schools got a bill that said, hey, you need to pay whatever 40 million divided by 14 is back to Fox because they judged that the 2026 Big Ten title game is worth $40 million.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, you're just giving it away, huh?
Yes.
Sweet. We actually own it. And, you guys can go expand your business whenever our deal's up. You want to kind of, dabble a little bit with NBC, show them what the Big Ten's got. Okay. You want to dabble with CBS, kind of show what the Big Ten's about. Oh, yeah, cool. Hey, we're going to split these fees. We will definitely be a part of the negotiation. But you're just going to give away the championship? Okay. That'll be $40 million back this way. We were good partners until you gave away a massive asset, which probably leads to the NBC thought they were getting Ohio State, Michigan.
No.
Fox would never give that up.
Ohio State, Michigan. Correct, yeah. So Fox still kept all the best games in the deal. And the CBS game that will become more prevalent, and then the NBC game. So there's basically 3 games every week, the top 3 games. Fox will most weeks have the A games, right?
I don't want to be too rude. Deal shit sounds like, right?
No, I mean the deal is massive, right? And it's still going to be massive, and everybody's going to make a lot of money. But there's just as they're barreling towards the finish here,
Bro, Indiana,
there's some
Illinois.
lingering issues, and,
Oh, yeah.
and
On
people
CBS,
are upset.
Get ready.
Sounds like Minnesota's going to be on CBS.
Oh my God! Who hates Iowa? We hate Iowa.
That's fine by me.
That's gonna be on NBC, dude.
Fine by me. I know Iowa does play Penn State in one of the night games before, that's one of the showcase games, which is weird because it sounds like Penn State's bitching about
No,
it.
just when snow, when weather's possible.
I think it's November.
November. Yeah.
It's late.
I think it's a late
that-
one, yeah.
Oh, so they just Penn State said, yeah,
They caved. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
we got to pay $40 million. Sweet. We got how many million? That sounds like a deal to me. All right, Pete. Let's move away from all the TV. What's going to go on? Okay, let's just dive right into it. Big Ten is going to exist. That's Ohio State's right there.
Yes.
How you doing? Keep it moving. Now, Michigan's had their number.
That's right.
Michigan has had their number, haven't they?
conference.
So that is always going to exist. Penn State as well. We'll throw them in there. Happy birthday, AQ. Okay, always going to exist.
USC's coming.
Yes, and UCLA allegedly. SEC always going to exist. Always.
Yep.
And I don't want to just start rattling off all the schools for the reasons why the SEC will always exist, but the SEC will always exist. Everything else fucked, Pete? Is that kind of is that what we're thinking, or what, like in the future, or how do you see this thing kind of panning out TV-wise, which ultimately leads to actual conference situations, like Pac-12?
You're getting those
They don't have
first
a
down
deal.
Yeah.
pass before you come to ESPN, right?
Yeah, I know. Fucked is going to be a tough one. We got a couple months here, though.
Gonna use them.
We got a couple months.
Yeah,
We got to get through it.
Let them rip, man. Let them rip.
But is everybody else in trouble?
So everyone else is now, like, you could think of it as a nucleus, and everyone else is in the orbit of those two leagues. I think you said it very well. I think that the other three leagues are now jockeying to get close to the Big Ten and the SEC. Because for all the issues in the Big Ten's deal, it's still a large deal. And the SEC is still really well positioned in the future, although they're not up again for another contract until I believe 2032 or 2034. So there's a chance for a little bit of catch-up to happen. Now, the Big 12 has been very aggressive in trying to grow to be league number 3. The ACC is in a little bit of infighting right now because they have a deal through 2036 that the bell cows of that league, Clemson and Florida State, feel like they're falling behind. And they're basically saying, how can Mississippi State be making $30 million more? How can South Carolina be making $30 million more a year, or will be making $30 million more a year than Clemson, who's winning national titles left and right and has even in a bad year, they're 10-2. So there's the inequities of the future have been laid bare by this Big Ten deal and then the prior SEC deal, and there's a gap. Like, I reference it pretty often, Pat, as a power 2. There's a power 2, a gap. There's those three and a gap. Now, there are still programs outside those power 2 that can win the national title.
We agree. Clemson, you just said one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clemson
exactly.
can do
And,
it.
like,
West Virginia can do it.
No.
absolutely.
Obviously, West Virginia will be able to do it.
Texas.
You have no idea what
Yeah.
they're doing in Morgantown.
Oh, I actually do.
Chase Rice was there 2 nights ago. Told me the place
Was he?
was awesome.
Oh,
wow.
Is that right?
Hey, I'm at your old stomping grounds. Where should I go? Well, I haven't been there in a while. I assume High Street. He did. He said it was fantastic. So West Virginia could probably go on and run if they want to, win this whole thing. But other than that, who are you talking? Maybe Oregon? I mean,
USC.
Kansas State.
I
Texas.
think Washington is in that conversation this year, especially Pat. Michael Penix, they have one of the best receivers in the country. I think Washington is a top 7 team this year, right from jump.
okay.
Whoa,
That's a
whoa.
long flight for game day, but can't wait to get up there.
Nice.
Can't wait to get up.
Beautiful. Have you ever been there? You must have played there in the league, right?
No,
Yeah?
so I only went to Seattle to go watch Herbie do that Thursday night this year. It's my first time up there.
Okay. I think Seattle's one of the great cities in the world, and that environment where you got the boats, it would be an opportunity for you to do another backflip, Pat. So, because you got the boats sailgating right on the water there. It's Washington. Yeah, Washington is one of the elite places to go see that. But the irony of the Pac-12 sort of in this moment of time with USC and UCLA going is this is the best season, top to bottom, of Pac-12 football going into the year in by 20 years doing it. I don't think there has been a better.
And they don't have
year
a
of the
deal, right?
Pac-12.
And they don't have a TV deal?
Correct. So they are searching for a TV
Maybe
deal.
that's what
Now,
we
part of it is obviously.
Yeah.
How much are they paying? How much will Pac-12 make with the uncertainty of what the future is of that entire conference? What would they make from a TV partner? What are they expecting to make? And how would that deal even look like? It would look like, hey, 1 year, depending upon what the conference looks like next year, and then I wonder how that whole thing will go with them.
So it's a great question, and really, like, the future of how the sport is comprised, and I'm not overstating this, hinges on whether the Pac-12 can get a reasonable TV deal. Because if they don't, you're going to see teams flee off. You're going to see Colorado maybe chase back to the Big 12. You're going to see Arizona, Arizona State, Utah face some hard decisions. Oregon and Washington have already pretty much staked their claim that they want to go to the Big 10. So the Pac-12 is in a very tenuous moment right now. And the question you just asked, how much are they going to be able to get on the open market path, is really something that, like, the future of the entire landscape of the sport hinges on. So let's just throw the number 32 million out. That's basically what the Big 12 just got. The Big 12 new commissioner jumped in line. Their deal was going to be up in 2 years, and the Pac-12 is up this year. And they said, you know what? This environment is a little hectic. We're going to open up our rights and do a deal with ESPN and Fox. And they did that within the last 6-8 months. So they're set through, I believe, at least a decade. Now, the Pac-12 has an expiring deal. Yeah, Brett Yormark, he basically jumped the Pac-12 and put him in this spot. Now, as you know, right now, the digital media landscape is in a time of earnestness, right? This isn't like the go-go 90s. This isn't there's a little bit of an austerity factor here that the Pac-12 is feeling headwinds from. So nobody knows, and the Pac-12 commissioner isn't saying to anybody how much they're willing to spend or how much they are going to be able to command on the open market. Is Apple going to be heavily involved?
Oh,
Amazon
Amazon,
going to be heavily involved?
maybe.
Be smart.
Especially on the West Coast over there.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Both West Coast companies.
Sure.
That's interesting. Earnest. It is an earnest time, isn't it?
Very.
That means good, right? That means good?
Earnest means, like, it's not the free spending time. Like, it's a time of caution. If you look at if you generally, Pat, look at the marketplace and you don't look at those that have transcended the marketplace, it's a time of a bit of, it's there's dot-com booms and everything like that, but stock prices and stuff have made people a little more conservative on what they're going to go spend.
Interesting. We pay attention to all that stuff.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Pete, speaking of things we pay attention to, during the draft, the big conversation was, hey, the guys this year are good with next year, Drake May, Caleb Williams, they're bona fide number 1, number 2 picks. Are there anybody else we should be kind of looking out for that might make a massive jump? You just mentioned Penix up in Washington. Who else is kind of on the radar as one of those top guys this season in college football?
So you drilled 1 and 2. I think I'd be pretty surprised, Connor, at this point if it's not Caleb Williams 1 and Drake May 2. I will say this: the best talent in college football, and I've talked to scouts who say, like, guys who aren't prone to hyperbole, who say Marvin Harrison Jr. is amongst the best players they have ever scouted.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Remember his dad
really
said,
feel
when you
like-
get there, you just do what I told you. Don't be
right.
listening. You just do, okay. And he has.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a transcendent guy. He could be one of the rare skill position guys outside the quarterback who win the Heisman, be a factor in the Heisman. I really feel like he's an exciting prospect. I do think that you guys study it close that the way receivers have been handled in the draft have changed a lot in the last years. If you look at Chase and what he did for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati and how he changed that whole franchise, like, people aren't afraid to pick a receiver third maybe anymore. Whereas I would say, like, 10 years ago, that would have been taboo. Oh, we'll find somebody. We'll find somebody in free agency. So I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a transcendent receiver prospect. Now, is he going to get picked above a quarterback? Probably not, right? You still need those dudes. You